Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS, Paul here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys my For Hire deck. We actually used this in a theme duel sort of thing against vampires. It was a live stream. Check it out. The VOD's up on the channel. And we also profiled the vampire decks, or Alec did, so you can check out his profile. But anyways, yeah, this is For Hires or Skyfang Brigade, even though I personally like the name change. I know some people don't. But yeah, so we're going to hop in and talk about it a bit. I feel like this deck is like, it's fun. It's a little bit underrated even. It's not perfect. It's not going to go like winning big events, but I would say that it's still, it's better than people think. So starting out, we've got 3 copies of Beat, the Blazeman For Hire. So he is the most important monster. He's the Stratos. He's also a warrior, which means that you can search him with Rhoda. So basically, once per turn, you can special summon a For Hire monster from your hand, and all of the small ones have this effect. But for him, when a For Hire monster gets summoned to your field, he can add a monster from your deck to your hand. So this is really important because this lets you replenish your hand. That's what this deck needs. It kind of plays a lot of monsters out of the hand, and you might end up burning through your resources. So he's important because he lets you keep those cards, keep that advantage, and get whatever you need for the situation. So very handy. Something else to keep in mind about these guys is during the main phase, they can use their effect to summon something, but they can actually get their effects that like add a card to hand, like Beat, for example, even when a monster gets summoned in the opponent's turn or something. So that can come up a bit. Anyway, next card is Raphael, not really sure how you say it, but yeah, Champion For Hire. So he's the boss monster. He's 28, which is really good stats. And when he gets special summoned, you get to excavate cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of different named For Hire monsters you have, except for him. And you get to add one of those cards from your deck to your hand and shuffle the rest back in. This is very handy because you can add any of the cards that you excavate. So it doesn't just have to be like a For Hire monster. So what you want to do is summon him last, because like if you have, 3 or 4 other For Hires, and that's like 3 or 4 other excavations, and you get to add something. It could be, any power card like a Solemn, it could be like Reborn, just that type of thing. Also, he can negate monster effects by discarding a For Hire card from your hand. The problem is he doesn't actually destroy the monster whose effect he negates, so sometimes you have to like kind of be wary of that. You can negate like small combo starters and usually be okay, like negating say Trickstar Candina or for Scorpio. But since the monster's not destroyed, that can make this a bit of a neg, so gotta be a little careful with him. And then we have 2 Wiz, Sage For Hire. This is the only other boss monster type one I'm running. It's kind of the opposite of Raphael. He has 2800 attack, she has 2800 defense. And when she's special summoned, you gain 500 life points for all your different named For Hires. You might gain like 1,000 or something like that. She can negate spell or traps by discarding a For Hire card. It's pretty helpful, but I only run 2 because she's more defensive and spells and traps aren't really as important in the game. So she's kind of a good wall, but other than that, she's not going to be doing all too much for you. Now we have some more of the small ones. So Triple Bravo, he's 1900 attack. That's mostly the reason I run 3 of him. And then when a For Hire monster gets summoned to your field, he gives all of your For Hires 500 attack and defense until the end of the turn. I wish that his effect lasted until the end of the opponent's turn, but it doesn't. But still, it's kind of handy because sometimes in your opponent's turn, you might be able to use like Mayhem or Call of the Haunted or something to summon back one of your For Hires and then boost your entire field by 500 until the end of your opponent's turn in that case. So it can help you deal with like battles and stuff. But as a standalone monster, he still has the Summon from Hand effect. He's 19, which makes him really good for a level 4. The rest of them are extremely weak, so you have to kind of be careful. We also have Double Donpa. This pops a face-up card in the field when a For Hire gets summoned. Very handy, although its stats are like really bad, and so even if you summon it in defense, it's normally they'll give these monsters high defense or something, but he doesn't have good attack, he doesn't have good defense. So this one's tricky. You usually want to get rid of him actually as soon as you can, like link him off into something. And then also 1 Recon, it destroys set cards, whereas this destroys face-up cards. 2 of this because most threats are face-up, only 1 of this because you might need to destroy a set thing, but it'll probably get chained or something. Then we have Helmer and Seal, a lot out of order, but 2 Helmer, 2 Seal. So Helmer is a little bit more useful. If anything, I would maybe go up on it, but they both have pretty good effects. Seal can get one of your For Hire cards from your grave to your hand, so it's pretty good kind of mid-game, but later on it's a good mid-game, but early on it's not very good because you won't have anything to get from the grave. Helmer lets you discard a card and draw a card. Reminds you of like Kid Brave from Magical Musketeers, so these guys are alright. This has beefy defense, so at least like he's worth summoning in defense. This guy's just got average stats. that is all for the for hires. Alright, so hand traps, Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogres. You know, it sucks that these cards have to be so expensive, but they're necessary. You just need to be able to stop cards, and that's what they do. They're also tuners, so if you want to run synchros, you can. Triple Mayhem for hire. One of these is a proxy because we only pulled 2 and the third one hadn't come in the mail. But yeah, Mayhem for hire summons one of your for hires from the grave. That's all it really does. It's cool because since it's a themed card, it means that like you can discard it for like Wiz and Raphael, and that's really handy. Also Helmer, things like that. So being quick play spell is also handy because you can use it in your turn, your opponent's turn. Rhoda, it's just a search beat. I wish this card was at like 2 or something so this deck could be more consistent. It's not. Upstart Goblin and double pot of desires. Not triple. So Upstart Goblin's just a draw, but Pot of Desires is important because, like I said at the start, this deck summons a lot of stuff from the hand more so than anything else, and so you want to get that +1 so that you can increase the amount of monsters you actually have to summon, because if this deck can only summon like 1 or 2 monsters, it's not very strong, but when you can summon like 2 or 3 or 4, it gets a little bit better. So, it doesn't really matter what you banish with Pot of Desires. As long as you see 1 copy of some of these things, that's all you really need for the game. A little spicy tech, Reasoning. They all have pretty much different levels, so if your opponent calls 4, then there's a pretty good chance they won't hit 4, vice versa. If you ever summon Raphael off of this, that's extremely rewarding, so I like Reasoning in here. Then we have Soul Charge and Monster Reborn. These are, you know, graveyard revival cards. They're not actually as good as Mayhem in some cases, but the fact of the matter is, this deck needs special summons, and when you get to like the mid-game point, being able to get stuff from the grave and trigger like several different card effects like Beat and Dampa and all that stuff is very strong. So yeah, and they get to the grave fast when you start linking up, so Soul Charge is usually a pretty good card. Called by the Grave. This deck loses very badly to hand traps, so unfortunately you have to run this because they're all like super susceptible to Ghost Ogre in particular, but Ash Blossom also sort of sucks to face, so running 2 of those. For the traps, we have Double Call the Haunted because it kind of just acts like a Mayhem, and the Solemn Suite because this deck doesn't really have all that much disruption in the opponent's turn. Like Raphael and Wiz can negate stuff, but they're not great, so these guys basically do the work for you. If anything, I would maybe like drop Call the Haunted down to 1 and then maybe add like another Solemn Strike, or if you're like, you know, a baller, you can use like Infinite Impermanence or something different like that. Evenly Matched might not even be all that bad. That's the main deck, and now on to the extra decks. So we have some Link 2s. Got Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Cerberus, the 2 kind of staple ones. Also have Ib, Underclock Taker. These are all just good rank 2s to go, or Link 2s to go in, because like Donpa and all that stuff, they're really small, and these have higher attack, literally, and it's a shame, it's like 1600. And they can get rid of cards, out stuff, it can change attack, pop spells and traps, protect itself, that type of thing. So these are all very handy. Link 3s, Decode Talker, Nightmare Unicorn, Ningirsu, doesn't happen too much because it's usually Unicorn's better, and Topologic Trisbana. Protects fields, out stuff, also out stuff. It doesn't require a discard, but you have to use links to make it. And this can actually get rid of back row reliant decks. It's very strong against True Dracos sometimes. It can banish all their spells and traps. Also pretty helpful against like Altergeists and stuff like that. If you were side decking Red Reboot, then this becomes really good. So those are your Link 3s. Summon Sorceress might be cool, but I don't think this deck can really use it too well. And then we have some Link 4s. Firewall, Borload, and in my opinion, this deck's boss monster, Saryuya Skuldread, because it's very easy to flood the field with your monsters from your hand and still kind of plus in the process with like Beat and Raphael. Making Saryuya is not too hard to do, and then he gives you extra special summons, beefs up the field, gives you the draws and the pluses, and it's really good. Borload is just an out, Firewall barely comes up, but I just have it in here because. And then we have some Xyz. So Hope Harbinger, you can actually make it with 2 Raphaels. He can negate spells, and he's big, and he's like, you know, actually kind of tough to deal with. And then the more situational ones are Abyss Dweller, Tornado Dragon, and in a pinch, you can make Baguska. So, yeah, that is the extra deck, and that's the deck. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This deck, like I said, I think it's underrated. At a local level, it's actually fairly competitive. I mean, like, you'd be surprised. You can kind of grind. You can do some cool stuff. So, yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment as well. Hit the notification bell, the usual things. And like I said at the start, if you want to see this in action against Alex's vampire deck, you can check out that duel. I'll have it linked to the side somewhere, and you can also check out his profile. I think it's going to be it. So I will see you guys in the next one.